Hello, this is Gretchen, the Verdant Crafter. Today I'm going to be showing you how I created a 4th of July card using the Love From Lizi card kit from 2017. This is a pretty fun and simple card, but it's got some rough edges. So first I'm going to flip through some of the paper that was included in the kit. It is very 4th of July themed, but I also think it could work for circus. And in the future, I plan on making a card utilizing this and circus animals I plan to draw. That's the paper I chose to use. You can see that it has firecrackers on it. I also cut down some of the red paper that came in the kit to cover an A2 card base. I'm going to be building on that and then putting it on my card. I cut an oval from the Hero Arts Infinity oval nesting dies, and I'm going to sort of be building my scene on that. The card kit was very exciting this month. She included a stamp set that she had designed for her. This is the first of its kind. So I'm just taking out the fireworks. And I'm going to put it on my acrylic block and we're going to do some heat embossing. Now you can see that the firework is going pretty much straight up, but on the stamp it's actually curved. So I used my scissors to snip around it so I could curve it so it could go in any different direction. I found this made it much more versatile and it fit my needs better. So I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool once I grab it, and I'm going to go pretty heavy on that. I'm going to use Versamark and I'm going to stamp one firework right in the middle. I am then going to use some Ranger blue embossing powder to heat emboss this. It's just called blue. I'm using my reverse tweezers to hold it, and I'm just going to use a paintbrush to get that off. So I heated up my heat tool off screen, and now I'm just running it over. The embossing powder on vellum will melt very quickly, and I actually won't show you any more heat embossing of vellum this time. You can see that I'm curving the tail so that our next firework curves to the left. And here we go. I want them all to sort of come from the same spot in the middle, but I want them to go in different directions like they would a little bit in real life. This time we're going to use, I believe it's called Whisper. It's some glittery embossing powder that I got from AC Moore quite a while ago. So we heat embossed that. Now we're just curving our tail the other way. We're stamping it, and we're not going to get a great impression, but it's going to be okay. We're just going to heat emboss this with some glittery green embossing powder. Again, I believe it's Whisper. And there you can see that it just didn't get a good impression because I was holding it with my reverse tweezers. Now I'm going to stamp sort of in the middle, but less so. And I'm going to end up using gold and silver tinsel embossing powder so they have glitter in them. I thought about using a different brand, but since everything but the blue was the Whisper, I just went with that. It's not the best, but it's not bad embossing powder, especially if you're going to be starting out. So we're just adding some gold, tapping it off, and now we're doing our last fireworks, which again we'll do with tinsel silver. This was a pretty simple card. You could easily do it, especially if you wanted to make multiples of it. Heat emboss everything at once, move on. At this point, I wish I'd stopped and just put the fireworks right on the paper, which is what I had originally planned. But I didn't, because I wanted them to really pop. So we'll come back to that. I'm just going to create my sentiment or stamp my sentiment, Happy 4th of July, on some black paper, and I originally planned to heat emboss it with white powder, but I'm going to go with the silver embossing powder, which will turn out just fine. So remember, cardstock takes a little bit longer to heat up, embossing takes a little bit longer, but it'll work. especially since my embossing gun is still pretty hot from all the embossing I did earlier. I'm just using a Swiffer dusting cloth to get off the anti-static powder which was left. It's a great way to get rid of that white residue without having to rub it with your hands for quite a bit. Not that it always takes very long. Now I'm just playing with it and seeing what I like better, where I want to have my sentiment, if I want it to be a little banner, if I want it to go across. Okay, so we're just gluing down our firecrackers onto our base panel, and I have Stick It, which I've adhered to some of the white cardstock that came in the kit. I would like to use, or I would have liked to use, a Xyron sticker maker, but I don't have one big enough, so I am using my Stick It, and I'm just going to cut it out with my scissors. I could have easily used the die cutting machine, but I'd already put away the dies, so it just seemed like an extra step. I want to pop up this little scene with some foam tape. This is 3M foam tape. Easy to use, relatively inexpensive, good quality. And now I'm humming and hawing because I feel like it needs something. I'd really like to put something around the edge, but I don't really want to do gold or silver or copper foil. I'd love it if I had something black around the edge because this should be a night sky. So I'm going to use some of the black glimmer paste from Nuvo. This is my first time using it. This is actually the first time I'd opened the container. And I'm just going to use my finger to dab a little around the edges. Again, I wish I hadn't put it on a white panel. I wish I'd just put it on that firecracker paper. But oh well, you live and you learn. This paste was really easy to use, and it actually dried really quickly. I'd expected it to take hours to dry, and while I was doing the rest of the card, most of this outer edge dried. So I stopped the camera and I went and found 2 stencils I have. I'm also in the midst of moving, so I can't find my palette knives, so I'm just using a tongue depressor to push it through the stencil. Again, just a little bit. Push it through the stencil, lift the stencil straight up. I'm going to mess up at one point, and you're going to see that I actually just rub it off with my hand or my fingers, and then I reapply it with my, see there, I messed up, silly me. Rub it off, you can barely see it in real life, and I'm going to stencil right over it. I decided to use my finger and just rub some of it right in and tap it in. It looks fine. I would have gotten more of a stark contrast there if I'd used my makeshift palette knife, but it's okay. I'm going to stop the camera and go wash that right off. And here I am peeling the backing paper off the foam tape, and I'm going to stick it right in the middle after I make sure I stick it straight up on the paper. We can't have those firecrackers upside down. So I'm just pressing it down with a paper towel. I have some of the glimmer paste stuck on my hand and I don't want to get it on that white panel. Now I'm trimming down my sentiment and I'm adding some fishtails to the end. And I'm going to use multi-matte adhesive to adhere it to the popped up part, and I'm going to use foam tape on the edges to make sure it's even. Foam tape, I'm just using a tiny little strip that was left over. And you know, when I cut down foam tape, I stick it right back on my roll. Then it's there in the future, I know where it is, and it doesn't get lost or thrown away. Probably should have stuck those down before putting the glue down, but oh well, it all works out. And there we go, putting down the sentiment. It looks a little bit crooked, but it's fine. So now I have a gray card base. It happens to be what I had right at hand. I have the white card stock packed because I'm moving, and I'm going to glue it on. So there we have a Happy 4th of July card. It's very easy to make. You could easily mass produce it. It's fun, it's shiny, it's glittery. I hope everyone has a happy 4th of July, and I hope you stay safe.